Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, and I wanted to thank you guys that are return subscribers and viewers, and to you guys that are just new to the channel. Welcome aboard. Appreciate all of you. So I thought today what we talk about is the Go Green. Now, in all honesty, I am on both sides. I am all for renewable resources if we have the ability to use them. But I don't believe in this total craziness, and I hate to use the word, but the woke. Whoever thought that up? Couldn't they have thought a better name than just woke? But the guys that are on the other side that are just lunatics when it comes to energy. Now, one of you guys had commented, and I appreciate the comment, that we had windmills and had used hydros years and years and years ago, and we did. And that was back before electricity too, if you remember, because out west, when people were coming up through, they would drive spikes into the ground and create wells, and then they had just a smaller windmill, and as it went around, it was hooked to a piece of board that was milled out, and that would go up and down, and as that went up and down, that would bring water up and into the trough for the horses and the cattle and if you ever watched the old Western, of course, back then they didn't have electricity, so they were using kerosene lamps and stuff. But Ma would go out with their bucket and dip it into that one that all the cows and horses and everything else were using, and bring it in for the house water, for washing and cooking and baking and what have you. That was in its simplistic form. We never generated power with it at that time. And then with hydro, also probably predates that, but right around that time, they were using water wheels to spin around, and they would put grain, corn, wheat, all that in this area, and then it was a large stone, and the stone would keep going around and around, and it was being done with water coming through it, allowing it to have propulsion. And that made a lot of your flours, for baking and stuff, and they called it a grain mill. Again, that predates electricity. These were ingenious people, that they found something that it was hard. I mean, before that, they were pounding it out with rock, trying to get down to the flour. We don't want to go back to those days. I've always been a person that says, follow the money. Who's making the money from all of these changes? And who's benefiting the most from all of these changes? See, if these EV electric cars, I'm not a smart man, never admit to it, but if these EVs, you got batteries in them that will go so long, 300 and some miles on a charge, why didn't somebody think about putting like generator alternators in one of the wheels on that vehicle, or two, so that you're charging those batteries the whole time you're moving? Wait a minute. Well, then nobody's going to make any money on you if you own that vehicle for charging or anything, because you're going to keep going. It's going to cost you $0 after you pay for the purchase of your vehicle until it blows up. So somebody's making money. Electricity off from grids, off from solar panels, wind farms, all that. So we can rule out the EVs by just simply having their own charging system built in on their wheels as they turn and go. And that will solve that problem. No more plugging it in at night because you're worried that it won't be ready in the morning. Or even trying to find an EV station. And I had a person tell me, just look at all the hurricanes and tornadoes and this. We had those when I was a kid. And that was a few years ago. I mean, when I lived in Oklahoma and Texas, it was not uncommon during the tornado season to see tornadoes going by. And I can remember how we would hop in the bathtub because we didn't have a cellar and we didn't have a storm shelter. We would pile into the bathtub as kids and cover ourselves with a mattress. Yeah. And the hurricanes. We've had hurricanes for as long as we've been on this earth. You're now able to see more. We're 24-hour live on the Weather Channel and news, and so they got to talk about something. Are the hurricanes getting worse? I don't think so. Is the weather changing, the weather pattern changing somewhat? I think it's always evolving. That's the way Earth has been, even during this mini ice age, which that could come up here before too long. Well, what are you going to do if you have a mini ice age? And then the idea, also when I was in my early teens, we were told that because of the melting ice caps, that New York City would be underwater 20 years ago. Folks, is it underwater? No. See, all these so-called scientists that said all these things got it wrong. Okay, it's not a big deal. But getting back to how I believe in renewable resources. To me, and I live in rural New York, to me, renewable resources are hydro. We have a lot of small hydro dams on waterways in our area. Wood, firewood, sawdust, hay. See, now, we use firewood for our shop, as it heats most of it during the day when we're here and stuff, but it works with propane. We've got a propane furnace separate. But we cut all the firewood off our own property, and 99% of that wood has died. It's just hanging up as dried firewood. Most of it's dead elm or what have you, but we cut it down, block it up, and burn it for firewood. That's renewable, because Mother Earth would just have it come down and compost into the ground as fertilizer for the other trees, which is good. But for all these wildfires that you're seeing, they're not taking down them old dead trees. They're not taking down all the underbrush. And when a fire does start, there's no stopping it. It's got plenty of fuel to burn as it's going through. In our area, a lot of people have gone to what they call pellet stoves. And a pellet stove, the pellets, they're 1 is made from sawdust from wood, and then the other is made from hay, certain types of hay. They're put into this unit, and it's put under so much pressure it is being pushed out. Matter of fact, my mechanic that I have here, Claude, he used to work for a pellet manufacturing company. Both of them are renewable. And a lot of the sawdust that these guys are getting for the pellet, to make the pellets, they're getting from larger sawmills in the areas. But I put up hay every year for my cows, and there's a lot of ground that never gets touched. And if that was knocked down and used for pellets for heat, isn't that a good thing? That's renewable. But it's going to boil down to what makes our life easier is what's going to prevail. Now, a lot of your handheld stuff, like your drills and your impact wrenches and that run off a battery, a lithium battery. It's going to get to a point of where they either make the battery a lot cheaper or they make it a lot more durable so that it lasts about the same amount of time as the drill or what have you that you have in your set. But they've been around for a long, long time, just not as good. I mean, look back 30 years and I can remember putting roofs on our houses and stuff using the battery operated drills, and it was still easier than trying to screw it in by hand. So it's going to be something that makes it easier on us that we should invest in. I do not believe that we should not use fossil fuel, propane, all those other things that we have in our life right now while it's readily available. Why not? When a certain president was in place, we were exporting. We were an exporter. And then when that one left and a new one came, now we're importing again. And these other countries are laughing their asses off at us. They must think we are totally stupid. Get the facts. Take the time to do the research. Who's making the money? Who's not making the money? I have friends that signed up to put solar panels on their barns and their houses. And they're telling me how great it is because in 30 years they won't have any power bills because their normal $200 and some a month electric is now being paid for by the solar. But the solar panels, somebody's got to pay for them. They got a grant. These friends of mine, they got grants. And that's how your big solar farms that are putting up these big solar panel facilities, they're not doing it because they're making big money. They're doing it because they're getting a lot of money from the federal government to go out and do this. And they're more than willing to do it. But what doesn't make sense to me is how come when they gave millions to that solar panel company that was inside the United States and they failed. They were a foreign company operating in the U.S. They took the money and run. Everything that we have that the woke agenda is pushing are being made in China, Korea, but not here in the U.S. At the very most, it says assembled in the U.S. So I'm just asking you guys, because normally it's the one that screams the loudest, the one that greasy or the screeching wheel needs the grease. Well, I think that's what's still happening. I think the bulk of us, like myself, we just sit back and just like, well, whatever. But now you're infringing on our rights and what it costs us. And I was always a firm believer and grew up being told this, that as long as you're not going to hurt someone else or affect someone else in something that you do, okay. This is totally asinine. In the same wording, it was, if something you do or say is going to hurt someone's feelings, it's going to hurt someone's livelihood, it's going to do something to somebody, then make sure that you're in the right place when you do it. Because you're not going to be able to make everybody happy 100% of the time. That's a fact. You can make some of the people happy, but not all of them. So on that note, thanks so much for watching our videos, and I'll see you on the flip side.